story. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Luther Swanson's meticulously maintained backyard. At 6'2", his military-honed frame still commanded respect, even in casual clothes. He watched his daughter Connie balance carefully on a stepladder, her tongue caught between her teeth in concentration as she hung the silver 25th anniversary banner. Little higher on the left, "Sweetheart," Luther called out, his deep voice carrying the same precision he'd used directing Special Forces operations. 16 years of fatherhood hadn't softened his edge, it had given it purpose. Connie adjusted the banner with practiced care. "Like this, Dad?" She turned to him, revealing features that mirrored his own, the determined set of her jaw, the focused intensity in her eyes that surveyed her work with military-grade attention to detail. "Perfect." Luther allowed himself a small smile. He'd seen that same look in the mirror countless times during his 15 years in Special Forces. Nature versus nurture was a debate for scientists. He knew in his bones that Connie was his daughter. Across the yard, Vera fidgeted with flower arrangements on the buffet tables. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted roses that needed no adjusting. 25 years of marriage had taught Luther to read his wife's tells like a tactical manual. The way she kept glancing at her phone, the nervous energy radiating from her movements, something was off. "Mom, the flowers are fine," Connie sighed, climbing down from the ladder. "You're going to destroy them if you keep fussing." "I just want everything to be perfect," Vera snapped, then immediately softened her tone. "Your father deserves a wonderful anniversary party." Luther's jaw tightened imperceptibly. The guilt in her voice was new, had been new for months now. He filed it away with other recent observations. Late nights at work, password changes on her phone, the subtle shift in how she carried herself. The first guests arrived, breaking his tactical assessment. The Hendersons from next door brought a crystal vase. The Patels from his construction company arrived with their teenage sons, who immediately gravitated toward the snack table. Luther greeted each with measured warmth, noting how several guests exchanged knowing glances when Vera's co-workers from the high school arrived. "Luther, you remember Stephen Herring?" Vera's voice carried a slight tremor as she introduced the wrestling coach. "He's been such a close friend at work." Stephen stood too close to Vera, his expensive charcoal suit incongruous with the casual backyard gathering. Luther assessed him with the same precision he'd once used to evaluate potential threats. Mid-30s, gym fit but soft around the edges, the kind of man who'd never had his convictions tested under fire. Of course. Luther's handshake was precisely firm enough to make the younger man wince slightly. "Connie mentioned you've been renovating the school's athletic facilities." "Yes, well," Stephen withdrew his hand, flexing it discreetly. "Vera's been instrumental in securing the funding." Connie appeared between them, pride radiating from her face as she gestured toward a three-tiered masterpiece of silver and white fondant. "Dad, come see the cake. I designed it myself." They wrote 25 years of love, exactly how I wanted it. Luther followed her, his tactical awareness noting how Stephen's eyes followed Vera as she hurried to help other arriving guests. The coach's expression carried a smugness that set off warning bells in Luther's combat-trained instincts. The party settled into a rhythm of casual conversation and reminiscing. Luther moved through the crowd with careful attention, noting details that others might miss. How Vera's colleagues whispered behind their wine glasses, how Stephen kept checking his watch with barely contained anticipation. The crack of the gate hitting the fence cut through the gentle murmur of conversation. Stephen strode through, his earlier suit jacket discarded, carrying a manila envelope like it was a declaration of war. The smirk on his face triggered every combat instinct Luther had developed in war zones. "Honey, stop pretending now." Stephen's voice carried the arrogance of a man who thought he held all the cards. "Everyone knows we've been spending wild nights together for months." The party froze. 23 guests became unwitting witnesses as Stephen pulled papers from the envelope, hospital letterheads bold against white paper. "And Luther," Stephen's voice dripped with false sympathy, "that precious daughter you've been so proud of? She shares my DNA, not yours. Here's the proof." Luther's Special Forces training kicked in automatically. Time slowed as his mind cataloged tactical details. Stephen's amateur stance betraying no combat experience, the positions of all witnesses, multiple exit routes, and most tellingly the lack of surprise on Vera's face. When Stephen grabbed Vera's arm possessively, Luther's response was pure muscle memory. The same wrist lock and shoulder twist he'd used on hostage-takers in Kandahar. The satisfying pop of Stephen's dislocated shoulder earned a scream that scattered nearby guests. "We'll sue you for this." Vera's carefully applied makeup cracked along with her composure. "I'll take everything in the divorce." Connie stood frozen by the cake she'd so carefully planned, the serving knife slipping from her fingers. It struck the patio board's point first, quivering like her lower lip as she stared between her parents and the man claiming to be her biological father. Luther met his daughter's eyes, letting her see the unwavering strength there. Whatever DNA might say, he was her father and he'd faced this threat like he'd faced every other, with tactical precision and unwavering resolve. The perfect moment Connie had planned lay shattered like dropped glass across the patio, but Luther's mind was already 3 steps ahead, analyzing options and planning countermoves. He'd fought in worse situations with higher stakes. This was just another type of warfare, and Luther Swanson had never lost a war. The clock on Luther's home office wall ticked past midnight as he examined the DNA results under his desk lamp. His trained eyes scanned each detail with the same methodical precision he'd used studying satellite imagery in Damascus. The hospital letterhead bore the correct watermarks. The genetic markers followed standard patterns he recognized from his time overseeing troop blood screenings. Nothing immediately screamed forgery. Upstairs, dresser drawers slammed shut with vindictive force. Each thud punctuated Vera's self-righteous tirade like mortar fire. "You want the truth, Luther?" Her voice carried down the stairs, bitter and biting. "While you were playing hero in Syria, tracking down terrorists, I was lonely." Stephen understood that. He listened. He was here. Luther spread the papers across his mahogany desk, a retirement gift from his unit. The genetic sequence analysis looked thorough, almost too thorough. In his experience, perfection often masked deception. 8 months, Vera continued, her footsteps creaking across the upstairs landing. 8 months of deployment, and you thought what? That I'd just sit here like a good little wife, watching Connie grow up without a father present. I recall video calling every chance I had. Luther's voice remained measured, controlled. Even under artillery fire in Aleppo, I made time. Asked about Connie's science projects. Helped with her geometry homework over spotty connections. A harsh laugh echoed down the stairwell. Video calls? That's your defense? Stephen drove Connie to her volleyball tournaments. He attended her parent-teacher conferences when you were too busy chasing targets across the desert. The same conferences where you started your affair? The question cut through her ranting like a tactical knife. Luther had perfected this tone during interrogations, calm, precise, designed to make the target reveal more than intended. Vera appeared in the office doorway, designer suitcase in hand. Her carefully maintained image had cracked, showing the spite beneath. Don't act self-righteous. You chose the military over us countless times. I chose to serve my country while providing for my family. Luther tapped the DNA results. These tests, when exactly did you have them done? Stephen arranged everything. A flash of uncertainty crossed her face. The hospital ran all the proper protocols. They're legitimate. Luther leaned back, studying his wife of 25 years. The woman who'd once supported his military career, who'd promised to wait through deployments, who'd helped raise their daughter, now standing before him like a stranger wearing familiar skin. Interesting timing, he noted. Waiting until Connie turned 16. Until my construction company secured those government contracts. Until the exact month our marriage hit 25 years. Color drained from Vera's face. You think this was planned? That's paranoid, even for you. Not everything is a military operation, Luther. No, he agreed, his voice hardening. Sometimes it's just betrayal. Heavy footsteps on the stairs announced Connie's presence. She stood in the hallway, eyes red but chin raised defiantly, his daughter through and through, regardless of what any paper claimed. Mom's taking me to stay at Stephen's house, she announced, voice cracking slightly. No. Luther's response carried the weight of a command. You'll stay here tonight. Both of you. We'll handle this properly, through lawyers in the daylight. You can't order me around anymore. Vera snapped. I've already called Steven. He's on his way. With his dislocated shoulder? Luther's smile didn't reach his eyes. That's unwise. The hospital will have reported the injury. Assault charges won't look good mixed with adultery and divorce proceedings. Vera faltered, her grip tightening on the suitcase. I'll sign whatever you want. But Connie deserves to know her real father. Real father? Connie's voice shook with fury. The man who ruined our anniversary party? Who made me plan the celebration of a marriage he was destroying? Luther watched his daughter's anger unfold, noting how she unconsciously mirrored his own controlled rage. DNA might be science, but certain traits ran deeper than blood. I'll make this simple, he stated, every word measured. I'll sign the divorce papers. But Connie's future is non-negotiable. Her education, her lifestyle, her stability, all of it continues as planned. Vera's laugh held a bitter edge. Still playing the noble warrior? She's not even yours. 16 years of bedtime stories. Bandaged knees. Science fair projects. Soccer games. Luther stood, his presence filling the office. That's what makes a father. Not some test results in a manila envelope. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway cut through the tension. Steven, arriving like a vulture to collect his supposed spoils. This discussion is finished, Luther declared. We'll have our lawyers speak tomorrow. For now, Connie stays here. You can't, Vera began. I can and will. Luther's tone ended all argument. Unless you want to explain to the responding officers why you're removing a minor from her home at midnight. Vera's facade cracked completely. She fled down the stairs, designer suitcase banging against the walls. The front door slammed, followed by the sound of car doors and Steven's engine revving. Connie remained in the hallway, uncertainty warring with exhaustion on her face. Dad. Her voice sounded younger, reminding Luther of nights calming her fears during thunderstorms. What happens now? Luther crossed to his daughter, placing steady hands on her shoulders. Now, we rest. Tomorrow, we plan. And remember, papers don't define family. Actions do. Later, after Connie had finally fallen asleep, Luther returned to his office. The DNA results seemed to mock him from the desk. His tactical mind nagged at inconsistencies, subtle patterns that felt rehearsed rather than random. He reached for his phone, scrolling through old military contacts. If these results were genuine, he'd accept that truth. But if someone had orchestrated this deception, they'd learn why his unit had labeled him the ghost, the operator who never failed to complete a mission. The war for his family had begun, and Luther Swanson was bringing 16 years of Special Forces experience to the battlefield. The apartment complex Luther chose sat on the east side of town, far enough from his old neighborhood to avoid casual encounters, close enough to maintain tactical oversight of his family's activities. Unit 4B offered clear sightlines of both entrance and exit points, a security setup that satisfied his professional paranoia, and most importantly, a straight 15-minute drive to Connie's school. Moving day proved efficiently brief. 15 years in Special Forces had taught him to travel light, own only what served a purpose. A bed, a desk, basic kitchen supplies, and his personal armory safe properly licensed and registered. Habits from his military days dying hard. You don't have to do this, Connie insisted, watching him arrange his modest book collection. She'd skipped volleyball practice to help, though there wasn't much to help with. We could fight this in court. Luther paused, noting how she stood with her weight balanced, just like he'd taught her in their backyard self-defense lessons. Sometimes strategic retreat creates better fighting positions. That's military speak for running away. Her frustration echoed off bare walls. No. Luther shifted a framed photo of Connie's graduation from junior high to eye level. It's military speak for choosing our battlefield. Your mother and Steven want drama, public scenes. We're not giving them that satisfaction. The days fell into a carefully orchestrated routine. Luther doubled his construction company workload, taking on high-end renovation contracts that would ensure Connie's private school tuition and future college fund remained untouched. Dawn to dusk, he drove between job sites, reviewing blueprints and managing crews with the same precision he'd once used coordinating tactical operations. His first major project under the new arrangement was renovating the city courthouse's east wing. The irony wasn't lost on him as he stood in the marble hallway, watching Vera and her lawyer approach for their first divorce mediation. Mr. Swanson, her attorney began, all polished suit and rehearsed sympathy. Given the circumstances with the DNA results, we believe a clean break would be best for all parties. Ms. Swanson is willing to be generous regarding property division if I step aside and let Stephen play father? Luther's tone could have chilled the marble beneath their feet. Not happening. Luther, be reasonable, Vera pleaded, her designer outfit carefully chosen to project victimhood. Stephen can provide for her. His family has connections. My construction company grossed $8 million last year, Luther stated flatly. I have 3 government contracts pending and a sterling reputation with the Corps of Engineers. Connie's trust fund is already established. Try another angle. The mediation lasted exactly 43 minutes. Luther agreed to the divorce, accepted a fair division of assets, and made one thing crystal clear: his relationship with Connie was non-negotiable. She's 16, he reminded them, old enough for the court to consider her preferences. Should we ask her opinion of Stephen's dramatic revelation at the anniversary party she spent months planning? Vera flinched. Her lawyer scribbled notes. That evening, Luther arrived at Millbrook Academy's gymnasium exactly 17 minutes before Connie's volleyball game. He'd never missed a match, deployment schedules notwithstanding, and wasn't about to start now. Bold of you to show up, Stephen's voice carried from 3 rows back. Given the circumstances, Luther didn't turn. Shoulder healing well? Doctors did good work reducing that dislocation. I could press charges. You could. Luther watched Connie execute a perfect serve. But then we discussed the exact circumstances that led to your injury. In detail. In court, Stephen shifted uncomfortably. She's my daughter. The DNA. Science is fascinating, Luther interrupted, clapping as Connie's team scored. But tell me, what's her pregame ritual? Which knee still aches from the bicycle crash when she was 7? What story calms her down during thunderstorms? The coach's silence was answer enough. Academic conferences presented similar battlegrounds. Luther arrived early, as always, positioned himself with tactical advantage of both sight lines and exit routes. He noted how teachers reacted to his presence, most with approval, some with awkward sympathy, none with the condemnation Vera had predicted. Mr. Swanson, Connie's calculus teacher, began carefully, given the recent changes, I want you to know Connie's work has remained exceptional. Though lately, she seems distracted, Luther finished. Understandable. We'll adjust her study schedule. What areas need focus? The teacher blinked, clearly expecting a different response to mentioning the family drama. Well, her advanced placement exam is coming up. Extra practice with differential equations would. Done. Luther made a note in his phone. All clear Sunday afternoons for review sessions. That Sunday found them at his apartment's kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks and graphing calculators. Connie stared at a particularly complex equation, frustration etching her features. This is pointless, she muttered. The DNA says what it says, Luther cut in, his voice firm but gentle. But tell me, did those test results change how we solve this equation? Did they alter the mathematical principles we're studying? No buts. Life gives us variables we can't control. We focus on what we can. He tapped the textbook. Right now, that's differential equations. Later that night, after Connie had gone home to Vera's house, Luther sat in his sparse living room. The DNA results lay on his coffee table, edges worn from constant study. Something about them nagged at his instincts, the same feeling he'd gotten before ambushes in Syria, when patterns appeared too perfect to be natural. His phone lit up with an incoming text from an overseas number he recognized. An old teammate, now working private security consulting, had some interesting information about similar DNA result revelations at other military bases. Luther allowed himself a grim smile. In special forces, they'd learned that coincidences often masked coordinated attacks. If someone was targeting military families with these DNA deceptions, they'd chosen the wrong operator to test their strategy against. He reached for his secure laptop, beginning to compile data. Vera and Stephen might think they'd won this round, forcing his tactical retreat. They didn't understand that sometimes you had to step back to see the whole battlefield. The war for his family wasn't over. It was just entering its intelligence-gathering phase. And if there was one thing Luther Swanson excelled at, it was turning intelligence into action. His apartment might be sparse, his current position tactical retreat, but Luther had learned long ago the best counterattacks came from carefully chosen ground. Let them think they'd won. He'd use this time to study the enemy, gather intel, and plan his response. After all, he hadn't earned the call sign Ghost by giving up when the odds looked bad. He'd earned it by being the operator enemies never saw coming until it was too late. The June heat pressed against Luther's apartment windows as he reviewed mission logs from his final deployment to Syria. 6 months had passed since the anniversary party disaster, each day spent methodically building his case. The logs helped him think their precise military language and clear objectives, providing familiar structure to his investigation. A sharp knock interrupted his concentration. 3 quick raps military cadence. Luther's hand instinctively moved toward his desk drawer before recognizing the pattern. Only one person he knew knocked like that. Garrett Dwyer stood in the hallway, leather briefcase in hand. The former team medic had kept his military bearing, though his green scrubs from the VA Genetic Research Department replaced combat fatigues. "You look like hell, Ghost," Garrett observed, using Luther's old call sign. "Still running those 5-mile morning routes?" 7 miles now. Luther stepped aside, letting his former teammate enter. "Helps me think. About these." Garrett pulled the DNA results from his briefcase, spreading them across Luther's kitchen table. The hospital letterheads seemed to mock them under the fluorescent lights. Luther watched as Garrett donned reading glasses, his medical expertise evident in how he analyzed each page. 20 minutes passed in silence before the medic spoke. "Remember Rodriguez?" Garrett's voice carried an edge. "Our communications specialist from the Damascus operation? Carlos Rodriguez. Wife and 2 daughters in Fort Lewis." Luther's memory supplied the details instantly. He took medical retirement after that IED hit our convoy. His wife got similar DNA papers during his recovery. Garrett tapped the results on the table. Claimed both girls weren't his. Nearly destroyed him until I helped review the tests. Luther's combat instincts surged. "Similar how?" "Look here." Garrett indicated genetic marker sequences. "These patterns are too perfect. Military genetic labs use randomized verification codes, but this sequence..." He pointed to a string of numbers. "It's textbook, like someone copied it straight from a manual." "You're saying they're forged?" "I'm saying someone with medical knowledge created these. Someone who knows enough to fool civilians, but made mistakes only specialists would catch." Garrett pulled more papers from his briefcase. "The certification stamp? It's from Memorial Heights Medical Center. That facility merged with County General 2 years ago. They haven't used this letterhead since." Luther studied the documents with renewed focus. Why didn't hospital staff catch this? Because they're overwhelmed, understaffed, and these look legitimate enough to pass standard review. Garrett's expression hardened. "But I've been digging. Found irregularities in the processing dates, inconsistencies in the genetic profiling methodology. Could this hold up in court?" "Not yet. We need more evidence, more examples of the pattern." Garrett hesitated. "How's Connie handling all this?" Luther's jaw tightened. "Steven's playing model stepfather. Vera's encouraging it. Yesterday, they suggested changing Connie's last name to Herring. Bold move for a man with a dislocated shoulder." Garrett's smile held no warmth. "How's that healing, by the way?" "Physical therapy twice a week, according to my sources. He's filed an insurance claim citing a home accident." "Smart of him. Claiming assault would raise too many questions." Garrett gathered the papers. "I'll keep digging into these results. My department has access to military medical databases. If there's a pattern of similar cases, there's something else." Luther retrieved a folder from his desk. Stephen Herring's employment history at the school. Background check was surprisingly thin. "You think there's more to him than a wrestling coach with boundary issues?" "My construction company runs deeper checks on site laborers than the school did on him." Luther's expression darkened. "And Vera fast-tracked his hiring through administration." Garrett whistled low. "She was already involved with him." The anniversary party wasn't a spontaneous revelation. It was staged. Luther's voice carried the same calm precision he'd used planning combat operations. The DNA results, the timing, the dramatic delivery, all of it calculated for maximum impact. You think they planned this together? I think Stephen Herring isn't who he claims to be. And Vera? Luther's pause carried weight. She's either complicit or being played. Garrett packed his briefcase, military efficiency in every movement. I'll run these through my lab contacts. Check for similar cases, matching methodologies. Give me 2 weeks. 1 week, Luther countered. Stephen's getting comfortable, making decisions about Connie's future like he has the right. Still the demanding commanding officer, aren't you? Garrett's attempt at humor fell flat. 1 week. But Luther, if this is what we suspect, a coordinated operation targeting military families, we're dealing with more than just a homewrecker in an expensive suit. Good. Luther's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because I'm tired of playing defense. After Garrett left, Luther added new notes to his investigation board, hidden behind his bedroom's sliding closet door. Pictures of Stephen, surveillance photos from the school, copies of employment records, all connected by red strings to the DNA results at the center. His phone buzzed with a text from Connie. Mom's making me have dinner with Stephen again. Says I need to accept my real father. Please don't make me go. Luther's response was immediate. Be there in 20 minutes. Homework emergency requiring my immediate assistance. As he grabbed his keys, Luther allowed himself a grim smile. Stephen might have orchestrated a perfect deception, but he'd made one critical mistake. He'd targeted a special forces operator who specialized in dismantling enemy operations. The hunt was on, and this time, Luther wasn't bound by military rules of engagement. Luther's secure laptop hummed in the pre-dawn darkness of his apartment. 3 empty coffee cups testified to another sleepless night as encrypted messages from his old intelligence network filled the screen. Willie Connell's latest report blinked urgently, marked priority. Got eyes on Herring, Willie's message read. Pulling surveillance from Fort Bragg, 2019. You need to see this. The video feed loaded, showing a younger Stephen, then calling himself Stephen Harrison, coaching wrestling at a base school. Same calculated charm, same expensive suits. Different target. Angela Martinez, wife of deployed Marine Corps Captain James Martinez. Luther's phone lit up with Don Randolph's incoming call. He switched to secure line protocol before answering. Tell me you're seeing these financial records. Don's voice carried the same intensity she'd once used tracking terrorist money trails. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, wire transfers from shell companies. Each deposit timed perfectly after DNA reveals at different bases. Break it down, Luther commanded, pulling up her data stream. First transfer, $250,000, 2 days after the Martinez case. Second, $300,000, following DNA results at Camp Pendleton. Third, $275,000, right after Fort Lewis. Don's fingers flew across keyboards in the background. These aren't random affairs, Luther. They're contracted hits. Willie's face appeared on the video chat window, his Virginia office visible behind him. Found 3 more cases matching the pattern. Same MO every time. Wrestling coach or PE teacher position, affair with military wife, sudden DNA revelation about the kids. Show me the families, Luther demanded. The images were gut-wrenching. James Martinez, decorated Marine, lost custody of his daughters and half his pension. Robert Chin, Army Rangers, paying child support for children DNA results claimed weren't his. Michael Sullivan, Air Force pilot. Career destroyed by similar revelations. Patterns identical, Willie continued. Target military families during deployments. Forged DNA results. Maximize emotional damage. But here's where it gets interesting. Facial recognition picked up our boy at financial centers after each case. Different names, same guy. Don's voice cut in. The money trail leads to a private military consulting firm, Black River Solutions. They specialize in psychological warfare training for private contractors. Luther's tactical mind processed the implications. They're using military families as training exercises, testing psychological warfare techniques on domestic targets. Gets worse, Willie added. Found Stephen's real service record. Stanley Hendricks, dishonorable discharge from PsyOps Division. Specialized in what they called social pattern disruption, basically destroying enemy command structures by targeting family units. Luther's screen filled with personnel files. Stanley Hendricks, Psychological Operations Specialist, discharged for ethical violations in human subject testing. Black River hired him 2 weeks later, Dawn reported. Been running these operations ever since. Military families make perfect targets, structured lives, predictable patterns, built-in vulnerabilities during deployments. What about Vera? Luther asked. Was she targeted specifically? Willie's expression darkened. School administration records show she processed his hiring paperwork 3 months before you returned from Syria. But here's the kicker: his application was submitted 2 days after your deployment was publicly listed. They chose her because of me. Luther's voice remained steady, but his grip on the phone tightened. Why? Your reputation, Dawn suggested. Ghost Squad's success rate was legendary. Taking down a top operator's family unit? That's prime proof of concept for their psychological warfare program. Luther reviewed the evidence mounting on his screens. Surveillance photos showed Stephen meeting with Black River executives. Financial records revealed systematic payments following successful operations. Personnel files exposed a calculated pattern of targeting military families. He's getting sloppy, though, Willie noted. Found credit card receipts for high-end paper stock matching the DNA letterheads. Starting to leave traces. And get this, he's already researching other military families in your area. Send me everything, Luther ordered. Every case, every family, every detail they can use in court. Already done. But Luther, Willie hesitated. These guys have serious backing. Corporate lawyers, political connections, black budget funding. They also have my daughter. Luther's voice could have frozen flame. And they're about to learn why Ghost Squad had a 100% mission completion rate. Dawn's typing paused. What's the play? Keep monitoring Stephen's movements. Track every contact, every meeting. I want to know his entire network. Luther pulled up his own file surveillance photos of Stephen at country clubs, restaurants, school functions. Willie, dig deeper into Black River. Find their weak points, their vulnerabilities. And Vera? Willie asked. Luther remembered the text messages on Vera's phone, her nervous glances at the anniversary party. She's either a willing participant or another victim. Either way, she's compromised. Speaking of compromised, Dawn interrupted. Stephen just booked a meeting room at the Westbrook Hotel for next Thursday. Guest list includes 3 Black River executives and a Colonel Harrison from the Pentagon's Psychological Operations Division. Luther's expression hardened. Send me the details. All of them. After disconnecting, Luther updated his investigation board. The pattern was clear now: a systematic operation targeting military families, using psychological warfare techniques honed in combat zones. Stephen wasn't just a homewrecker in an expensive suit. He was a trained operative running a field test. His phone buzzed with a message from Connie. Stephen's pushing for me to attend military school. Says it'll help me understand my heritage better. Mom agrees. Please help. Luther's response was immediate. Already handling it. Trust me. He turned back to his laptop, accessing encrypted military databases. Black River Solutions had chosen the wrong family to target. They thought they were running a psychological warfare operation. They were about to learn they'd started a war. Teresa Davison's private forensics lab occupied a converted warehouse on the city's industrial edge. Security cameras tracked Luther's approach, a precaution he'd helped install after her husband, his former CO, passed away. Inside, state-of-the-art genetic testing equipment hummed beneath LED lighting. This had better be worth calling in my marker, Teresa said, not looking up from her microscope. Her silver hair was tied back severely, hands steady as she adjusted the lens. Do you know how many favors I pulled to fast-track these tests? Show me what you found. Luther placed the original DNA results beside her workstation. We're doing this by the book. Teresa finally looked up, her expression hardened by years of military forensics work. Full genetic workup, witness collection, videotaped testing process. When we nail this bastard, his lawyers won't find a single procedural flaw. Timeline. DNA sequencing takes time. Even with priority processing, she gestured to sealed samples in the containment unit. But my preliminary analysis of the original results? Whoever created these knows the science, but made amateur mistakes in the documentation. Luther nodded. They expected civilian doctors to review them, not military forensics experts. Exactly. Teresa pulled up comparison charts on her monitor. See these authentication codes? They're valid, but they're from a batch reported stolen from Military Central Lab last year. Someone's recycling stolen credentials. A noise from the lab's waiting area interrupted them. Connie sat there, homework spread across her lap, trying to appear focused on calculus problems. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. She's lost weight, Teresa observed quietly. Stephen's psychological warfare is taking its toll. Luther's jaw tightened. He's escalating, pressuring her to change her name, switch schools, cut ties with her old life. Classic isolation tactics, like he did with the Martinez girls. Teresa pulled up case files on her tablet. I reviewed the Fort Bragg DNA results. Same methodology, same stolen authentication codes. Those girls haven't spoken to their father in 3 years. Connie approached cautiously, her teenager's instinct for adult conversations about her evident. Is this going to take much longer? Stephen's been texting Mom, asking where I am. Just a few more minutes, sweetheart. Teresa's professional demeanor softened. We need to be thorough. Luther watched his daughter retreat to her homework. She showed me his text messages last night. He's demanding she call him Dad, insisting she change her last name to Herring. When she refuses, he gets aggressive. Emotional manipulation. Teresa's voice hardened again, using the DNA results as leverage to force compliance. Classic psychological warfare tactic. Mom doesn't see it, Connie called from her seat, giving up the pretense of not listening, or doesn't want to. He's different now, controlling, mean when she's not watching. Yesterday he said if I don't start showing proper respect, he'll send me to military school to learn discipline. Luther crossed to his daughter, noting how she unconsciously straightened her posture under his gaze, mirroring his military bearing even now. No one's sending you anywhere. Show me the texts. Connie's phone displayed dozens of messages from Stephen. Your mother agrees you need structure. A father knows what's best for his daughter. Your stubborn attitude shows lack of proper upbringing. Military school will help you understand your true heritage. Standard psychological abuse patterns, Teresa analyzed, reading over Luther's shoulder. Undermining existing family bonds. Enforcing artificial authority, using threats disguised as concern. Luther's phone buzzed. Willie's update, appearing on the secure line. Stephen's real identity confirmed. Stanley Hendricks, ex-PSYOP specialist. Found his Black River Solutions contract. They're paying him per successful operation. We're not his last target either. He's already researching other military families in the area. God. Teresa's face paled. How many families has he destroyed? 7 confirmed cases across 5 states, Luther replied. All military, all during deployments. He's getting sloppy, though, leaving evidence trails, getting overconfident. The DNA results will be conclusive, Teresa assured him. Following every protocol, documenting every step. When we're done, it'll stand up to any court challenge. Luther's tactical mind calculated options. They had evidence of fraud, proof of previous scams, Black River's involvement, and soon would have legitimate DNA results. Timing would be crucial. Show their hand too soon. Stephen might run. Wait too long. He'd target another family. We need to coordinate with the others, Luther decided. Willie's building the fraud case. Dawn's tracking the money. Your DNA results complete the picture. What about Mom? Connie's voice was small. She still believes him. Still defends him. Your mother made her choice. Luther's tone left no room for debate. She either knew and was complicit, or was too willing to believe his lies. Either way, she's compromised. Teresa's computer chimed, preliminary results appearing on the screen. Her eyes widened as she reviewed the data. Luther, these markers. They're exactly what we suspected. The original results weren't just forged, they're impossibly perfect. No natural DNA sequence aligns this precisely. Document everything, Luther ordered. Every flaw, every inconsistency. When we move, we take down his entire operation. Already done. Teresa's fingers flew across her keyboard. Sending copies to secure storage now. Even if he destroys the originals, we'll have verified duplicates. Luther's phone buzzed again, dawn this time. Stevens meeting Black River executives next week. Planning to expand operations, target more military bases. They're calling it Project Family Pattern, Systematic Disruption of Military Support Structures. Keep monitoring him, Luther instructed. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to. We build this case absolutely solid before we move. Connie stood, gathering her homework. He's going to hurt other families, isn't he? Like he hurt us? Luther faced his daughter, seeing his own determination reflected in her eyes. No, he won't. Because we're going to stop him. Permanently. The trap was set. Evidence gathered, witnesses ready, documentation secured. Stephen thought he was running a psychological warfare operation. He was about to learn he'd started a war with someone far better trained in destroying enemy operations. And Luther Swanson had never lost a war. The antiseptic smell of Teresa's lab hung heavy in the air that Tuesday morning. Luther sat in her office, the sealed envelope containing the legitimate DNA results lying between them on the steel desk. 6 weeks of careful testing had led to this moment. Before I open this, Teresa began, her lab coat pristine as ever. You need to know we ran the tests 3 times. Different technicians, different equipment, documented every step. Whatever these results say, they're irrefutable. Luther's expression remained neutral. Show me. Teresa broke the seal methodically, spreading the papers with practiced precision. Her eyes scanned the data, a small smile forming at the corners of her mouth. It's 99.99% positive, she declared, her voice carrying absolute certainty. Connie is definitely your biological daughter. The previous results weren't just forged, they were masterfully fabricated to deceive. Luther absorbed the information without visible reaction, though his shoulders straightened almost imperceptibly. The confirmation simply validated what he'd known in his bones, what 15 years of military instincts had told him. Look here. Teresa pointed to specific sequences. Your genetic markers align perfectly with Connie's. The previous results were expertly falsified, but they couldn't change biological reality. The lab's secure video screen crackled to life, Willie's face appearing with urgency written across his features. Luther, we've got movement. Stephen, or should I say Stanley, has been busy. Just intercepted his latest target list. Show me. Willie's image split screen, sharing surveillance photos. He's meeting with Jessica Martinez. Husband deployed in Korea, 2 young kids. Same pattern starting, he's already applied for a coaching position at their base school. Send me everything, Luther commanded, his tactical mind already formulating the next phase. There's more. Don's voice joined the call. Black River Solutions just transferred another $500,000 to his Cayman account. They're expanding operations. For more bases targeted for next quarter. Teresa gathered the legitimate test results into a secure folder. What's the play, Luther? We have absolute proof now. We could take this to the authority. Not yet. Luther's voice carried the same calm precision he'd used directing combat operations. Stevens meeting his Black River handlers Thursday at the school fundraiser. Every target, every conspirator, all in one place. It's risky, Willie cautioned. He could bolt if he suspect. He won't, Luther interrupted. His psychological warfare training makes him predictable. He'll want to gloat, demonstrate his success to his handlers. Show them how he destroyed a legendary operator's family unit. Don's typing echoed through the video feed. School security cameras confirm. He's scheduled to speak at the fundraiser, giving a presentation about modern family dynamics of all things. Arrogant bastard, Teresa muttered, securing the DNA results in her lab safe. Using his victim's school as a victory lap. Luther's phone buzzed a message from Vera. Stevens insisting Connie participate in his presentation. Says it'll help her accept the truth about her parentage. A second message followed from Connie. Dad, please don't make me do this. He wants me to stand up there while he talks about being my real father. Mom says I have to. Perfect. Luther's smile held no warmth. He's orchestrating his own takedown. Luther. Willie's voice carried warning. These Black River people, they're serious players. Private military contractors, political connections, black budget funding. Good. Luther stood, every movement controlled. Because I'm done playing defense. Time to end this. All of it. The lab's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as Luther outlined the operation. Every detail precise, every contingency covered. The same methodical planning that had made him a legend in special forces. Teresa, I need copies of those results, full documentation, chain of custody records, everything court admissible, already prepared. She patted the secure briefcase beside her desk. Triple redundancy, stored in 3 separate locations. They can't bury this. Willie, coordinate with the FBI. I want every agent briefed on Black River's entire operation. When we move, we take down the whole network. On it, Willie's image flickered. Strike teams standing by. Just give the signal. Dawn, monitor all communications. If Steven or his handlers try to run, they won't get far, Dawn finished. Already flagged their passports, frozen their secondary accounts. They're trapped in their own web. Luther checked his watch, the same tactical timepiece that had guided countless operations. Thursday. School fundraiser. Every piece in position. As if on cue, his phone lit up with another message from Steven, addressed to both him and Vera. Looking forward to sharing our unique family journey at the fundraiser. Time everyone understood the truth about Connie's real father. Luther allowed himself a grim smile. Steven thought he was still running his psychological warfare operation, still manipulating pieces on his carefully constructed board. He was about to learn why Luther's unit had never failed a mission, why targets never saw them coming until it was too late, why they'd called him Ghost. The hunter was about to become the hunted. And this time, Luther wasn't bound by military rules of engagement. Time to end this, he stated, his voice carrying absolute finality. The reckoning was about to begin. Millbrook Academy's gymnasium hummed with activity as parents and teachers gathered for the annual fundraiser. Luther positioned himself near the rear exit, cataloging faces as they entered. 3 Black River executives in expensive suits, too, polished for a school event. A colonel from the Pentagon's Psychological Operations Division, trying too hard to look civilian. Steven commanded the podium like he owned it, his recently healed shoulder displayed in a tailored jacket. As an educator and coach, I've seen how modern families adapt to change, he proclaimed, playing the concerned stepfather role to perfection. My own journey with Connie has taught me valuable lessons about patience and understanding. Vera sat in the front row, beaming with manufactured pride. She'd forced Connie to sit beside her, the teenager's discomfort evident in her rigid posture. Luther noted how Steven kept glancing at his Black River handlers, seeking approval like a trained dog performing tricks. On schedule, Dawn's voice whispered through Luther's earpiece. FBI teams in position. Surveillance confirms no additional Black River personnel in the area. Steven's presentation continued, each word calculated for maximum psychological impact. DNA doesn't just determine biology, it defines legacy, heritage, truth itself. Isn't that right, Connie? Connie's face remained stone still, a technique Luther had taught her for dealing with stress. Pride surged through him even now. She showed more strength than Steven could understand. Now, Luther commanded softly. The gymnasium doors opened with precise timing. Willie entered first, flanked by 2 FBI agents in tactical gear. Dawn's technical team had synchronized their entrance perfectly with the live stream to military bases overseas, ensuring every previous victim could witness justice unfold. Stanley Hendricks, the lead FBI agent's voice cut through Steven's presentation. You're under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and extortion across state lines. The Black River executives moved to stand, but found themselves covered by additional agents materializing from the crowd. Luther's planning had ensured every escape route was blocked. What is this? Steven's practiced charm cracked slightly. There must be some mistake. No mistake. Luther stepped forward, Teresa's briefcase of evidence in hand. He moved with the same controlled precision that had made him legendary in combat. Let's talk about Project Family Pattern. about targeting military families during deployments, about forging DNA results to destroy lives. The color drained from Stephen's face as Luther laid out the evidence methodically. Interesting strategy using psychological warfare techniques on civilian targets. Black River Solutions must be proud of their investment. You can't prove anything, one of the executives started to say. Actually, Willie stepped forward, displaying documents on the gymnasium's projection screen. We can prove everything. 7 families across 5 states. Offshore accounts. Falsified credentials. And this, he nodded to Teresa, who produced the legitimate DNA results. Proof that every DNA test you've used was forged. Stephen's eyes darted between his handlers and the exits, finding no escape. Vera, he pleaded, tell them this is ridiculous. Tell them about us, about our relationship, about how you targeted her. Luther's voice carried across the suddenly silent gymnasium. How you timed your operation with my deployment. Selected her specifically because of my military record? The gathered parents and teachers watched in stunned silence as years of deception unraveled. Photographs appeared on screen, Stephen, with different names, different families, different victims. Financial records showed payments after each successful operation. Mom? Connie's voice cracked from where she sat. You let him lie about this? You helped him? Vera's carefully maintained facade crumbled as realization hit. The man she betrayed her family for wasn't just a liar, he was a professional manipulator who'd selected her as a target. Stephen bolted for the nearest exit, but found himself facing 3 of Luther's former teammates. Each held evidence of different aspects of his scams, positioned with military precision. Stanley Hendricks, the FBI agent, read from an extensive list. You are charged with interstate fraud, identity theft, extortion, forgery of medical document. You don't understand. Stephen tried again, his practiced charm deserting him. This was sanctioned research, psychological warfare testing. On American families? Luther's quiet question carried more threat than any shout. On children? Testing techniques meant for enemy combatants on military dependents? The Black River executives were led away in handcuffs as Don's voice came through Luther's earpiece. Additional teams moving on Black River offices now. Servers secured. Files recovered. The whole network's going down. Parents who had witnessed the anniversary party confrontation 6 months ago now watched its resolution. The same guests who had seen Stephen's triumphant revelation now saw his true identity exposed. I want my lawyer, Stephen demanded, though his voice shook. You'll need one. Luther handed the FBI agent a final file. 7 families destroyed. Children separated from fathers. Military careers ruined. Also, you could test your psychological warfare techniques. Vera stumbled to her feet, finally understanding the magnitude of her betrayal. Luther, I didn't know. I never thought. No. He cut her off, his voice arctic. You didn't think. You just helped him manipulate our daughter. Used a school fundraiser to publicly humiliate her. Tried to force her to participate in his psychological warfare demonstration. Connie rose from her seat, walking past her mother without a glance to stand beside Luther. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone watching. As the FBI led Stephen away, Luther addressed the gathered crowd. To every military family he targeted, justice is coming. To every child he tried to separate from their father, the truth is now documented. And to anyone thinking of running similar operations, his gaze swept the Black River executives. Remember what happened when you targeted the wrong family? The gymnasium erupted in chaos as reporters pushed in, alerted by Don's carefully timed press release. Luther guided Connie through the crowd with protective precision, leaving Vera to face the consequences of her choices alone. Outside, Willie coordinated with FBI teams securing evidence. Clean operation, ghost. Just like old times. Luther watched as Stephen was placed in a federal vehicle, his expensive suit wrinkled, his practiced confidence shattered. The man who tried to destroy his family now faced the full weight of federal prosecution. Dad. Connie's voice was steady again. Is it really over? Luther pulled the legitimate DNA results from his jacket. See for yourself. Though we never needed this to know who we are. As federal agents continued collecting evidence, Luther led his daughter away from the scene of their victory. Behind them, Vera's tearful attempts at explanation fell on deaf ears, and Stephen's carefully constructed world of deception crumbled completely. The hunter had become the hunted. The manipulator had been outmaneuvered, and Luther Swanson had reminded everyone why his unit had never failed a mission. The federal courthouse loomed against the autumn sky as Stephen Herring, now properly identified as Stanley Hendricks, faced sentencing. 3 months of trials had exposed the full scope of Black River Solutions' operation. The prosecution's evidence painted a damning picture: 7 military families destroyed across 5 states, all during deployments. In the gallery, Luther sat with perfect posture, Connie beside him. Behind them, row after row filled with families Stephen had targeted. The Martinez sisters reunited with their Marine father. Robert Chin's children discovering their Ranger's heritage wasn't a lie. Michael Sullivan embracing the son he'd been separated from. The defendant's actions represent a calculated attack on military families. The prosecutor addressed Judge Catherine Wells, herself a retired Navy JAG officer. Using psychological warfare techniques developed for enemy combatants against American citizens, specifically targeting service members during deployment, Stephen sat in his prison oranges, his expensive suits and practiced charms stripped away. Each testimony had revealed another layer of his operation: the careful selection of targets, the forged documents, the offshore payments. If it pleases the court, Stephen's lawyer attempted intervention. My client was following authorized protocols for field testing. Testing? James Martinez stood up from 2 rows behind Luther. Is that what you call destroying my relationship with my daughters? A test? Judge Wells didn't bother with her gavel. Her voice carried enough authority to silence the courtroom. Mr. Hendricks, before I pass sentence, would you care to address the court? Stephen rose, a shadow of his former confidence. Your Honor, I was merely implementing approved psychological warfare strategies. The research value. Research? Vera's voice cracked from where she sat, isolated in a corner. The past months had aged her decades. You used me to hurt my family, made me help destroy my daughter's trust. The judge's expression hardened. Mr. Hendricks, this court has reviewed extensive evidence of your activities. Forged DNA results, falsified credentials, systematic emotional manipulation of children. The psychological damage you've inflicted on these families may take years to heal. Willie appeared at the courtroom door, signaling Luther with a subtle gesture. New intelligence about Black River's operations had surfaced, but that could wait. This moment deserved his full attention. Given the interstate nature of your crimes, Judge Wells continued, the multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and the especially egregious targeting of military dependents, this court sentences you to 25 years in federal prison. Additionally, you will make full financial restitution to every family affected by your operations. Stephen's facade finally shattered completely. You don't understand. Black River authorized everything. I was following. Remove the defendant, Judge Wells ordered. As federal marshals led Stephen away, she addressed the gallery. To the families present, this court acknowledges the pain you've endured. Victim services will assist with counseling and restitution claims. Outside the courtroom, Dawn coordinated with FBI cyber teams. Black River's entire network is exposed. Servers seized. Operations shut down. 7 more operatives identified targeting bases in Texas and California. Handle it, Luther instructed. His focus remained on Connie, who watched Stephen's departure with complex emotions crossing her face. Vera approached tentatively, designer clothes replaced by modest business wear. Luther, Connie, please. I didn't know the full scope. I never meant. Save it. Connie's voice carried Luther's steel. You chose him, believed him, helped him manipulate me. Those were your choices. The school board meets tomorrow, Luther informed his ex-wife coolly. They'll want your resignation after your role in enabling an operative to access student files. Vera crumpled, finally facing the full consequences of her betrayal. Her participation in Stephen's fraud, however unwitting, had destroyed her career and reputation. 1 year later, Luther and Connie worked together on their deck, the same deck where the anniversary party had imploded. Each board they replaced represented another piece of their life rebuilt. Found this while cleaning Mom's old room, Connie said, holding up a faded photograph. Luther in his Special Forces uniform, cradling newborn Connie in the hospital. His eyes in the photo held the same fierce protective love they carried now. "First time I held you," Luther recalled, his hands steady as he secured another board. "Knew then you were mine. No DNA test could tell me different. Even when the papers said otherwise, you never doubted? Papers lie. Blood lies. But 16 years of moments, those tell the truth." Luther checked the board's alignment. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every proud moment at your debates. That's what makes a father. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across their rebuilt deck. In federal prison, Stephen faced decades contemplating the lives he destroyed. Black River Solutions had been dismantled, their psychological warfare program exposed. Vera had moved to another state, her attempts at reconciliation firmly rejected. "Got accepted to West Point," Connie announced casually, handing Luther another board. "Early admission. Thought I might follow your path, but my way." Luther paused, studying his daughter's determined expression. So like his own. "Military service is a choice, not an obligation." "I know. But after seeing what Stephen did, how he targeted military families," Connie's jaw set firmly. "Someone needs to protect them. Might as well be me." Pride swelled in Luther's chest, but his voice remained steady. "Academy's tough. Good thing I inherited your stubborn streak." Connie grinned. DNA confirmed and all. They worked in comfortable silence, rebuilding their sanctuary board by board. Below Luther's sleeve, his unit tattoo caught the light. "Ghost Squad. Never seen, never forgotten." He'd lived up to that motto, destroying an enemy operation so completely that other Black River operatives had gone to ground, abandoning their targeting of military families. "Blood is just biology," Luther said finally, surveying their work. "Being a father, being family, that's a choice you make every single day." The setting sun painted their rebuilt deck in shades of gold. They had restored more than wood and nails. Trust, honor, truth. Values that no DNA test could measure, no psychological warfare could break. In trying to destroy their bond, Stephen had only proven its unshakable strength. Father and daughter stood together, warriors cut from the same cloth, ready to face whatever battles lay ahead. Some bonds, they had proven, were stronger than blood itself. The deck would need sealing before winter, but that was tomorrow's mission. For now, they had rebuilt their foundation. Stronger, more resilient, tested by fire and deception, but ultimately unbreakable. Just like the father-daughter bond that no amount of psychological warfare could ever destroy. Epilogue. 5 years later. The federal penitentiary's visitor room held the same sterile chill it had maintained for the past 5 years. Stanley Hendricks, once known as Stephen Herring, sat in his orange jumpsuit, the confident swagger of his coaching days replaced by the haunted look of a man facing another 20 years of confinement. Request for early parole. Denied again. The guard placed the paperwork in front of him. "Judge Wells made sure your case got special attention. Something about unprecedented psychological warfare against military families." Stanley's hands trembled as he read the rejection. His Black River connections had evaporated the moment federal agents had started flipping lower-level operatives. His offshore accounts, frozen and seized, now funded support programs for military families he'd targeted. Across town, Vera Lawson, she'd reverted to her maiden name after the divorce, worked as a filing clerk in a small insurance office in Nevada. Her attempt at a fresh start hadn't gone as planned. Each job application brought the same results once background checks revealed her involvement in the Black River scandal. The prestigious administrative career she'd built lay in ruins, her reputation forever tainted by her role in Stephen's operation. Her tiny apartment walls held no family photos. Connie had returned all her letters unopened. Her attempts at reconciliation met with steadfast silence. The last time she tried visiting Millbrook Academy, where she'd once commanded respect as a senior administrator, security had politely but firmly escorted her off campus. Ms. Lawson, her current supervisor, approached her desk. "There's been another complaint about you handling sensitive documents. Given your history, we'll need to reassign you to the mailroom." She nodded numbly, accepting another demotion. The pattern had repeated at every job. relegated to positions requiring minimal trust, always under supervision, her past following like a persistent shadow. Meanwhile, Luther's construction company had expanded across 3 states, specializing in military family housing projects. His reputation for integrity, ironically strengthened by the Black River scandal, had brought contracts from every major base in the region. Ghost Construction, he answered his office phone, the company name a subtle nod to his former call sign. Dad. Connie's voice carried the crisp authority of a West Point senior cadet. Just finished my psychological operations training. Instructor used the Black River case as an example of domestic psychological warfare. Felt strange hearing Stephen's name in an official briefing. How'd you handle it? Professionally. Though I might have offered some first-hand insights into countering psychological manipulation tactics, her laugh carried her mother's musical tone but her father's strength. My thesis on protecting military families from targeted psychological operations is getting attention from the Pentagon. Luther allowed himself a small smile. Using their own tactics against them, learned from the best. By the way, Garrett's VA genetic screening program is going national. They've caught 3 more attempts at falsified DNA results targeting military personnel. None made it past his protocols. The protocols, developed after Stephen's operation, had become standard procedure at every military medical facility. Garrett had turned their experience into a comprehensive defense system, protecting other families from similar manipulations. Willie called. Connie continued. His private security firm just landed another contract teaching military bases how to spot Black River-style infiltration attempts. Dawn's cyber team is consulting too. They're turning our case into a blueprint for family protection. Luther glanced at his office wall, where photos tracked Connie's journey, debate team champion, West Point acceptance, her first cadet parade. Below them hung a newspaper clipping, Black River Solutions ringleaders sentenced. Psychological warfare operation against military families draws maximum penalties. Teresa's asking if you're speaking at next month's forensics conference, Connie added. They want your perspective on how DNA fraud impacts military families. Already prepared my notes. Luther checked his calendar. You'll be there? Wouldn't miss it. My commanding officer thinks it'll help with my new assignment after graduation. They're creating a task force specifically to counter psychological operations against military personnel. Apparently, I have unique insights into the subject. A knock at Luther's door revealed Willie, now silver-haired but still carrying his intelligence officer bearing. Got some interesting news about our friend Stanley. Luther switched his phone to speaker. Connie's on the line. Go ahead. His latest cellmate talked. Turns out Black River had operations planned at 6 more bases. Stanley was their star performer, using his coaching positions to access military family records. When he went down, the whole network collapsed. No handler would risk running similar operations after what happened to him. Good. Luther's satisfaction was evident. How's he handling long-term confinement? Not well. Tried claiming PTSD from his PSYOPs training, saying he was programmed for the operation. Judge Wells shot that down personally. He spends most days in protective custody. Apparently, other inmates don't look kindly on guys who manipulate children. And Vera? Connie's voice carried carefully controlled neutrality. Still in Nevada. Working minimum wage jobs, moving every few months when her background catches up. Tried changing her name, but the Black River connection follows her. She filed for bankruptcy last month. Legal fees from the scandal finally broke her. Luther studied the latest photo on his desk. Connie in her cadet uniform, standing proud at West Point. She'd taken the pain of Stephen's deception and turned it into purpose, training to protect other military families from similar predators. One more thing, Willie added. Remember Jessica Martinez? The woman Stanley was targeting before we shut him down? Her husband just made colonel. Their kids are thriving, family intact, because we stopped Stanley in time. She sent this. He placed a letter on Luther's desk. Inside, photos showed the Martinez family at various military functions, happy and united. The note read, "Thank you for saving our family before he could destroy it. You showed us all that real fathers fight for their children." Later that evening, Luther walked the deck he and Connie had rebuilt, their first project after the scandal. Each board represented another truth they'd reclaimed from Stephen's lies. The wood had weathered beautifully, grown stronger through the seasons, just like their bond. His phone buzzed with a message from Connie. Graduation in 3 months. Commissioned as second lieutenant, assigned to Family Protection Task Force. Found more photos from before the scandal. Reminded me who I really am. Who we really are. DNA doesn't make a father. Choice does. And you chose me every day, even when the world said you shouldn't. Across town, in his maximum security cell, Stanley stared at his rejection papers. His carefully constructed psychological operations had backfired spectacularly. Instead of destroying Luther's family, he'd made them stronger, turned them into a force actively working to protect others from people like him. In Nevada, Vera sat alone in her sparse apartment, looking at old anniversary party photos, the last moment before her choices shattered everything. She'd traded 25 years of real love for a manipulator's lies, helped him hurt her daughter, lost everything that mattered. No explanation could fix that betrayal. But on Luther's deck, under the same stars that had witnessed their family's destruction and rebirth, the future looked bright. His daughter would soon graduate, commissioned to protect other families from psychological warfare. His company thrived. His friends had turned their experience into systems protecting others, and his choice to fight for his child had created a legacy stronger than any DNA test. The deck boards creaked softly under his feet, solid, tested, unbreakable. Like the truth they'd proven. Blood makes relatives, but love makes family. And Luther Swanson had chosen love, chosen family, chosen to fight when others might have surrendered to lies. Stephen had tried using military psychological warfare to destroy their family. Instead, he'd taught them, and through them, the entire military community, that real strength comes from the bonds we choose to forge and protect. In the end, the master of deception had revealed the most important truth. A father's love, freely chosen and fiercely defended, was the strongest weapon against any psychological warfare operation. And that was a lesson worth building a future on.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.